The following mishap summary is part of the 2022 A200 that occurred on the 17th of August. This particular incident occurred near Oak Ridge, Oregon, and involved a Type 1 FireEye UAV. The UAV was procured through a BLM call when needed contract, and at the time of the mishap, it was under U.S. Forest Service operational control. So at approximately 6:15 in the morning on August 17th, a FireEye UAV was damaged after contacting the ground and subsequently rolling over. The UAS was conducting mapping and recon operations on the Cedar Creek fire. Over the previous 9 days, the aircraft had completed 17 flights, totaling 39.2 flight hours, all in support of the fire. And prior to the mishap flight, during that same shift, it had completed a 2.8-hour flight. The UAS took off from the launch and recovery zone, and we'll call that the LRZ going forward. Took off at an elevation of 5,500 feet to begin an aerial recon of the Cedar Creek fire. Winds are from the east at 5 knots, which was within aircraft limitations. The aircraft launch had been delayed to allow gusty winds to subside, and sky conditions were clear and visibility was greater than 10 nautical miles. So here's a picture of the launch and recovery zone that was used on the day of the mishap, and the approximate impact area is circled at the bottom in yellow. After takeoff, the aircraft climbed 100 feet vertically before it transitioned to forward flight. After one turn and holding, the pilot turned the aircraft south to climb to mission altitude. The aircraft had climbed approximately 200 feet above takeoff elevation when it made a sudden, uncommanded roll to the right, losing approximately 100 to 200 feet in altitude. Witnesses stated the aircraft tumbled out of the sky. Company personnel have speculated since that the aircraft may have stalled. The pilot in command manually took control of the aircraft and recovered from the roll, and then attempted to climb back up to takeoff altitude. The pilot in command then elected to do an off-site landing in an open meadow south of the LRZ. The aircraft descended and landed 270 yards south of the launch site in a clearing which had a 20-degree slope. Upon arrival at the scene, responders found the aircraft inverted. The batteries were then disconnected, the accident site was documented, and mishap notifications began. This mishap did not meet NTSB requirements for accident notification criteria. The Forest Service, as the agency with operational control, conducted an internal incident investigation to determine likely cause and pertinent recommendations in the interest of future mishap prevention. So now we'll list some findings from the investigation. The pilot in command initially took manual control of the aircraft to return the aircraft to the LRZ. At that time, the pilot switched to an autopilot feature that is called Q-land later than usual, and the aircraft came to a stop close to trees. Upon realizing this, the aircrew manually adjusted the landing position while the aircraft began its descent. The aircraft was still moving to get into this new position when it touched down, which likely caused the aircraft to roll over. During engine warm-up for the mishap flight, the aircraft had experienced compass error and drift, which resulted in an audible visual alarm called a Kalman filter alarm. Based on company personnel statements, this had been experienced on several previous flights. According to witnesses, the compass drift was approximately 90 degrees from the aircraft heading leading up to takeoff on the mishap flight, and just prior to takeoff, the compass had drifted back to the correct heading. Based on company personnel interviews, pilots have a general lack of experience on fires and flying the actual aircraft, not the simulator, manually. When Argentech FireEye UAS pilots are qualified by the company, they have an average of 1 to 1.5 hours of flight time on the actual aircraft. No minimum training and/or flight hours are required by the contract or the vendor. Some contributing factors include the pilot in command's manual control of the aircraft on the return flight to the LRZ, and then switching to the autopilot feature later than usual placed the aircraft close to trees. This necessitated additional manual adjustments to the aircraft into landing position while descending prior to touchdown. All of these factors contributed to the UAV still maneuvering when it touched down, ultimately causing the aircraft to roll over. A mishap review board was completed on the 8th of November 2022. Some preliminary recommendations include conducting training with flight crew personnel, directing that an aircraft should never be launched under a compass error condition, or in this case, a Kalman filter alarm. In addition, conduct training identifying procedures to notify the vendor's engineers if the alarm conditions persist or worsen to enable an engineering assessment to be conducted and a cause identified. Additionally, company engineers should investigate the cause of the compass error and drifting, as the cause is not fully understood at the time of this recording. Initiate a Forest Service UAS program review to benchmark progress that has been made since the inception of the program, identify gaps, and make programmatic recommendations. Interagency UAS program managers should develop standards and guides for pilot and UAS carding, maintenance and documentation requirements, flight test requirements, return to service procedures, minimum flight hour and training requirements, and pilot testing standards. The Interagency UAS program managers should also develop standards for consistent data collection and tracking of UAS mishaps, what needs to be gathered, who gathers it, what mishaps meet the criteria to trigger an internal investigation. For further information about this incident, contact your RASO or the Washington Office Aviation Safety Branch. Please keep in mind that at the time of this presentation, this is an ongoing investigation, so look for a final report to be released which may contain additional information. You can find detailed information on other aviation mishaps from 2022 in separate sections of the A200.